the AMQP protocol, and I will share with you how to speak actually RabbitMQ, speak to RabbitMQ through advanced message queuing protocol. There are three main models that is there for advanced message queuing protocol. We are going to look into those components, or those are called AMQP model. Under that, there are queues and exchanges, also a concept called binding. So we will go into that parts during the second section. After that, after second section, I will share with you a demo. There are two demonstrations. One is simple coding and like how to create a queue and how to connect to RabbitMQ likewise. And there will be another demonstration with a small application that is a small face detection application. Like we can upload an image and ask to do the face detection. So this application will be in the cloud, like in a AWS EC2 instance, and to actually process this image, it will the actual processing will be happening inside my local machine. So that will be at a good interesting application. I think that will be interesting application for you. And after that, I will share with you what are the possible application architectures that we can go with RabbitMQ. And as the to conclude the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. So you can use the Q&A section of Zoom to ask the question. So after this presentation, we will take question from there. So to give you a brief, if you to give you what is RabbitMQ, what it's look like, I will first share with you the management how RabbitMQ, what RabbitMQ looks like. So this is the management console. So we can log in. First of all, this is not RabbitMQ itself. This is an additional plugin that it's like a management console. So it will give a visual view. We can log in, and also you can see that this is port 8080. Actually, RabbitMQ's default port is this port, AMQP port. So during the programming, we will connect to this port, and this is to give us some graphs and some details about RabbitMQ. Here you can see queues if it is created, or exchanges and channels connection. During this session, we will go through these different concepts. What is queue, exchange, channel, connection. So after the this session, you can get a understanding what these sections are. So with that, I show you the management console. Let's move on to what and why RabbitMQ. So first of all, this is a message broker. Message broker means like this is RabbitMQ, and we can publish messages, and there could be multiple consumers. Those consumers will consume those messages. And this is an open source one, and it's going under Mozilla public license. So we will have that flexibility when using the RabbitMQ. And it is lightweight one. Lightweight one means like when we starting in a development environment, when we start it, it will not take much CPU or memory. Like what RabbitMQ mentioned is that 40 MB will be enough to do the basic operations. But it's different. Like let's say if you are putting huge like images or something to RabbitMQ as messages, then of course it will consume memory. but it is very less when compared to a server like Apache server or Tomcat or web application server. This is very lightweight. And the other important thing is that RabbitMQ is providing very flexible configuration over how to manage messages. Like we can change, we can, there's a configuration to how to do the message routing, how message routing algorithm, what we need that we can configure. Also, we can configure whether messages need to be saved in the RabbitMQ itself. Let's say we put a message, like here we publish a message, and before consumer consumes it, maybe something happened here and RabbitMQ went down. And then when RabbitMQ is starting up again, we want those messages to be there. So we can configure it. Those configuration are not like hard configuration. Those are easy configuration. Like when we are sending a message, we can set whether this need to be persist or not. So that RabbitMQ will save it. So when if there's a restart, then those messages will be there. And the other thing is like RabbitMQ is supporting failover management. Failover management means like, let's say RabbitMQ is running and there's some connection failure, and we can register listeners so that when RabbitMQ up again, we will get the notification, then we can start again sending the messages. So those there are a flexible configuration like that. And the other thing is that third-party plugin support. One example for plugin support is, now let's say we wanted, now we send a message to RabbitMQ and we want that to be persist in the RabbitMQ itself. Okay, let's say we want those messages to go to a maybe PostgreSQL database. So that also, like through plugins, that can be done. Also, like the other thing is through plugins, RabbitMQ is going to support other protocols as well. Like let's say for Java, we have Java messaging services, JMS. Through plugin mechanism, even though this is supporting, RabbitMQ is supporting advanced queuing protocol, but AMQP, but through plugins, it can support multiple protocols. So that's also one advantage. Other thing is integrated security. This security comes into place like when connecting to this RabbitMQ, those messages, so those connection can be SSL support connections for security reasons. Also, authentication and authorization also supported there. So security is built itself with the RabbitMQ. And last but not least, most important thing is that it is an implementation of AMQP, Advanced Message Queuing Protocol. So this means that if anyone can support this protocol, barrier to work with RabbitMQ. So that is the major advantage. This is an implementation of this protocol. So anyone who speaks this protocol can communicate with this one. So then because of that, this is like language independent. Like a publisher can be from .NET and subscriber can be from Java, or it supports multiple languages. So there can be multiple clients with different technologies. So with that, let's move on to next section, that is looking into this most important advanced message queuing protocol and how it's related to RabbitMQ. So as I mentioned previously, RabbitMQ implements this protocol, advanced message queuing protocol. And so we have to speak this protocol to communicate with RabbitMQ. So here's our application. We have to speak or send these commands to RabbitMQ, then only RabbitMQ will know that and do what we ask to do. So we have to speak AMQP to work with RabbitMQ. The interesting thing with AMQP is that it is like OOP. Internally it is a bit different, but the specification is provided the specification like OOP. There are classes and methods. So we call it as AMQP commands. So we have to pass those commands, like, or else like we have to send those methods, and then it will return back. So where it is bit easy, since most of us are familiar with OOP, so getting used to AMQP is easy because it has these classes and methods like specification. So knowing AMQP will be definite help when we are working with client libraries, because these client libraries will facilitate to work with this protocol. But actually, even though we see it as like classes and methods that in the specification, these messages are actually translated into something called frames. This is a structure of a frame. So these commands marshaled into a frame like this. It has this format, and like it's at header and payload, and likewise channel number, size, and likewise. So we are not going to look into this internal detail how this frames and likewise, but there are 5 different frames, five different frames that is using within when communicating with the RabbitMQ. So to give you a brief, like some kind of idea, I will show you a small diagram. That's let's say when how this communication going between a client and the RabbitMQ or server. Here's a diagram of how messages could flow. Like from client, it will send protocol header frame, and then once it received, RabbitMQ will send the command connection start command, and the client has to send connection start OK. Then only connection will get established. That is how internally this protocol works. I will show you another one, how when we publish a message, how it's going to happen. So when we publish, client has to send basic publish. This is a command of advanced message queuing protocol. We have to send this command, and after that we have to send this frame, and we have to send this frame. Then that is a pattern to send a message. So you can see it is not like a web HTTP protocol, like request response model. This is like a push model. So for both ways. So for the server also behaving like that, client also behaving like that. So that is, I hope it is clear to you what is the difference between like normal request response model and this RabbitMQ connection or AMQP related message flowing pattern. So these are like, this is a one frame, this is another frame. So this is a format. So this will marshal into a frame, and then RabbitMQ will understand, also client will understand that, and we can start get the connection, we can connect, send the message, we can create a queue, and likewise. So that is little like what is internally happening within the advanced message queuing protocol. But the really good thing is that we don't have to worry about these frames, how to create a frame, what is the message pattern, and likewise we don't have to worry much. There are client libraries that's already provided by RabbitMQ. Those client libraries doing that for us. So we have the easiness of using those client libraries and use it. So it is easy, even though there's a bit complex message framing and those things are going on. It is easy for us to work with RabbitMQ because of there are client libraries. But the important thing is these client libraries are talking advanced queuing message protocol or AMQP. So we have to know AMQP model. Then only we can easily use these client libraries, right? So with that, let's move on to AMQP model. This is I got this from RabbitMQ site itself, and this is the AMQP model. So a publisher is send a message, and there's a thing called exchange, and there's another thing called queue, and the original diagram doesn't have this part, but this is a very important one. This is binding. So there are three major concepts like exchange, exchange, queue, and binding. We have to know these how these three are behaving. Then we can publish a message and a consumer can consume it. So first, before going into these models, let's see how we can connect, what RabbitMQ connection looks like when we connect. So the connection to RabbitMQ will look like this big orange box. There will be one connection. A client will connect to RabbitMQ with this one connection. Under that, we have to create channels. So for one connection, there will be multiple channels. So we will be use these channels to communicate with RabbitMQ. So in a single AMQP connection, there will be multiple channels. Like this is like multiplex cable. Like there will be one cable, and then under that there are different communication connection or channels here. So when we are working, you can see that first we connect, then we create a channel for us, and then we use that channel to communicate with the RabbitMQ. Right. So let's move on to the first concept, which is high-level diagram. This is the exchange. So exchange is responsible to route messages. Like when someone send a message to RabbitMQ, exchange is the responsible party to route that message. There are different types of exchange. Like there are 4 types of exchange. So depending on this exchange type, routing algorithm will depend on this exchange type. There are direct exchange, topic exchange, and fan out exchange and header exchange. I will share that in a future slide. Those what are the different routing algorithms and exchange types. So that is what exchange is. Exchange is responsible to route messages. So how we can create a exchange? To create exchange, we have to issue this command, exchange.declare command. Once we send this command, to RabbitMQ with the name of the exchange, then it will send back exchange declare OK. Then we knows that OK, exchange is created. Then we can use that exchange. If there's something error happen, then that channel will be closed. So here I have added some since there are different people using different languages. So how we can create a exchange or declare exchange? You can see that it is not difficult. We have to call exchange declare method. Of course, there are parameters. Then if everything went fine, it will create exchange in RabbitMQ, and we can use it for message routing. That is about exchange. Then let's move on to the next one, which is queue. Now we know what is exchange. This is queue. So a queue is actually data storing place. So it's like a queue data structure. For that, we have to issue queue.declare command, and then we will, if everything went success, a queue will be created for us, and RabbitMQ will send us queue declare OK command. These are AMQP protocol related commands. So for Java, this is the method, and these are parameters. Queue name, whether queue need to be durable, whether queue going to be exclusive. Exclusive means no other one can use it, only the creator can use it. Auto delete when process is exiting, whether queue need to be deleted. So you can see that once we get to know this, what this queue declare and what is exchange, then it is easy to use a client library. Then the other one is binding, this part. If you went to RabbitMQ site, you will not see this one, but this is important. So to binding means, like, what binding means is that through binding, previously we create exchange, we created a queue, but to work this together, we have to create a binding. So to bind one, we have to issue queue.bind command with the queue.bind command with the queue name and exchange. So we are asking with this command to bind a queue to an exchange with the routing key. So routing key we will look in later on, like when we are doing the coding, that this is the key actually going to be matched. Like let's say this queue going to let's say key, we have a queue exchange and we have a queue, and those two we bind with let's say key X, and then when someone send a message with to exchange with key as X, then exchange knows okay, to this queue it need to go. Likewise, so there can be multiple queues that subscribe with one key. So when someone send that one message, it will route out to these two queues, and two consumers can process it. Here again, to feel easy, that these are the method calls that we can use in client libraries. Hope this is clear. So this is actually in nutshell what AMQP model is, that we have to declare exchange, and we have to declare queue, and then we have to bind it together. Then only we can send the messages. So these are the exchange types that I have mentioned to you. So exchange is responsible for routing the messages, and so routing algorithm depends on this exchange type. So there's a one type called direct exchange. So what it's going to do is it's routing the messages based on the key. Based on the provided key, it's going to route the messages. And there's a one default exchange that is coming in built with RabbitMQ. It is the type of that is direct exchange, and it is a empty string is using by that. The other one is fan out exchange. Fan out exchange is like a broadcaster. So it is not looking at the routing key. It's sending to the whoever bind to that exchange, the queues. So messages will be go to all that exchanges. Sorry, queues. That means this is like a broadcaster. All the queues, like once we send to this type of exchange, it will send to all the queues message. Other one is topic exchange. Topic exchange is like an advanced version of direct exchange. In a direct exchange, it is using the routing key only, but here it can use routing key based patterns like asterisk, like wildcard matching can be done. So based on that, it will send the messages to queue. And there's a fourth one, that is message headers. Like when we send a message to RabbitMQ, we can include headers. So we can ask to route based on those headers, so that this routing keys will be ignored. So those are the 4 exchanges. So we have covered exchange, queue, binding, and exchange types. So we have to know one more thing to work, that is how to read from a queue. Now we declared the exchange, declared the queue, we create the binding, and messages are flowing inside the RabbitMQ, and we wanted to connect and read the messages. So let's check how we can do that with this queuing protocol. It's also like not that complex. There are 2 ways that actually we can do. One is consume, other one is get. I have not included get. Get is not that much performance or not a suitable way to work with a queue. If you don't have any other option, get can be used. But the suitable, recommended way is to consume. It's like we subscribe and then consume it. So a client will consume a queue so that it will start to get all the messages. Let's say I'll start to consume a queue with name ABC. The client can ask from RabbitMQ to I want to consume this one. Then RabbitMQ will send all the messages. There are to let the RabbitMQ know that client received the message, it has to send the acknowledgement. Then RabbitMQ knows, okay, client successfully processed it, I can remove the message. So acknowledgement is important. Yet, so these are the commands: basic consume, to consume, and to acknowledge we can send basic ack, so that RabbitMQ knows it. Client has successfully received the message. Then RabbitMQ can delete it. Also, there's a flag that we can set, like no ack flag. If we set no ack flag to true, that means we are letting RabbitMQ that we are not sending acknowledgement to you, so that RabbitMQ will continuously send the messages. Like it's like we open the floodgate and all the messages are coming to our side. That is when we set to acknowledgement to true. Once we set acknowledgement to false, then it will be like we have to consume a message and we have to acknowledge it. RabbitMQ is waiting to be acknowledged when we send that no ack is false. This is the way that we can consume. We have to consume. We have the option to set the no ack depending on the behavior, how we want to process the message. Hope this is clear. So now we know what is exchange, queue, and binding, and how to consume. So these are the main things of a QP model. So with that, let's move on to our little demo. So there are, as I mentioned, there will be two demos. One is that simple coding demonstration that I will in my local machine. There's a RabbitMQ running as a Docker instance. So in your local environment, if you can use this command to start the RabbitMQ. Here I have asked to use with the management interface as well. That's why you saw it. Here you can see that 8282 port that I have export. This is for the management console, and this is that actual AMQP related port. So that once we start like this, then we can connect to RabbitMQ from your local machine. And this first demo will be like we are going to use default exchange and publish and consume, create a queue and publish and then consume. That is the first one. Then the second part is demonstration with a face detection application. Here what I wanted to emphasize is like with RabbitMQ we can distribute the work. Like it could be one in cloud, one in some other data center, and likewise. So in this demonstration, I have already hosted RabbitMQ in one of the EC2 instances in AWS, and there's a small image uploading application on AWS. And once image is uploaded, it will send a message to RabbitMQ, and whoever subscribe to RabbitMQ to process will process and send back the messages. So there will be to process the messages, there will be my local machine. In my local machine, I have created a small application which use OpenCV to, once it receive an image, it will use OpenCV to detect the faces and send back the response. I will go in detail to this one after first sharing this first code with you. So let's go into the IDE. Right. So I have already started my image. So this is my RabbitMQ running as a Docker instance, and then this is the management interface. So these two we use in one of our application. And so now if you go into like, this is a queue. So now we know what is a queue, which is exchange. You can see that these are the types: direct, fan out, headers, topic. These coming as with the RabbitMQ itself. This is the default exchange, and it is a direct exchange. Also, these are the channels. This is a connection. So now we have gone through these sections. So RabbitMQ is up and running. So here I will skip creating the exchange for now. So here this is a Java based example, but there's as you see in the previous slides, like method calls are same, like to declare queue, this is the channel.declare, and so declare exchange, it is like this. So in your preferred language, you can use the client library for that specific language, and you can, since you have some idea about AMQP model now, you know that what's going to happen. So here I am to connect, I am setting the host. We can say, you of course use username and password here, and then here we are going to declare queue with my queue, and it has these different parameters, whether this is going to be durable. Durable means that whether this is going to be survive after restart. Now, right now it is false. And so this is going to declare a queue, and then, so the queue name is this one, and then it is going to publish to exchange. So we are going to use the default exchange, and to this queue, we are going to send this message. So here's my admin console. We can see what's going on, right? So I'm going to start this. So we can see that message published, declared in the queue, and likewise. So if we go to management screen, now you can see that my queue is created. And if in this management console, we can go inside and we can, you can see like how many messages are there. So now there's one message. Let's see whether it is the same message. So even we can publish from here. So get messages, how many messages? One message. So let's run it again. So you can see now there's two messages in the same queue. And here if we ask to get two messages, so you can see these two messages with the time difference. So if we call the exchange, then exchange will be listed down here. Then a consumer. So we have now created a queue and send messages. Now there are two messages in that queue. Let's see how to consume it. So it's again like we have the connection to localhost, create the connection and create the channel. Then here we are going to start consuming. So we are asking that we want to consume this queue. And what it's going to happen, like once a message received, this is the callback, which is this one. So this is the callback. Once a message is received, then it will call this one. And here we are getting the body of that message and printing it out. So let's save it. Now we have two queue messages once we run it. So it's received these two messages. Since this is still running, what we can do is we can go to this management. So we have queue. Now there are 0 messages because now I have connected with no act true, so that once it send it back, it is removed from the queue. That no act to false, then here inside this one I have to call the act to message to be removed, send the acknowledgement from here. So let's see, we can publish a message to this queue from here as well. So, right. So I will publish it. You can see here. It's not taking even seconds. Like it feels like real time. Okay. So that is why it's lightweight and fast. Hope this gives you some overall understanding about RabbitMQ and what is a queue and exchange and channel connection. So yes, still it has this connection. it's happening like real time. This queue, let's see, queue is there. Maybe I may ask queue to be persist, like durable one. So that's why still it's there. So that is to give you a brief like how we can connect and send messages. So let's move on to the other demo, which is that our cloud-based like distributed processing. Now what you have seen is like RabbitMQ is running inside my machine, and the two clients like publishing and receiving clients are all in same machine. So this is the like high-level diagram of the application. So we have a image processor that is running in my local machine to detect faces. It will first go and subscribe with this RabbitMQ that he's going to process the images. So this is the first component that it's going to be registered with the RabbitMQ, so that with the key, specific key, so that when a message comes in, it will start to process it. And RabbitMQ will be running in AWS in an EC2 instance, and there will be a small application, image uploading application, and result showing one. So a user will come here and upload the image, and that it will send it to RabbitMQ, and there will be a queue also created. I will go through the code to have a proper understanding. And then since this is subscribed already, it will get the message, process it, and send it back. So let's say this is example of offloading this app for user, for this application user. It will feel like it's here, but this can be running as a totally separate area. Let's say we got huge load, lot of images, then can have multiple processors do the work. Right. So I will first show you RabbitMQ. This is RabbitMQ running in AWS, right? So right now it doesn't have any queues. It doesn't have. There are two exchanges. I will delete those exchanges. So queues. This is the application that is connected, that image subscribing application, sending application. So this is a small image uploading application. We can upload, then face detection will happen. First I will show you, then I will so here I will upload, then process image will be appear here, and so this is my I will went through this part. Here you can see that it is connected to this remote one. I will go through this part after showing this. So Here we don't have any queues, right? So I will start. Oops, debug effect. All right. Yes. Okay, that is because I have deleted those exchanges. So this is going to, I have cleaned those exchanges. This is going to send the messages through these exchanges. So it says that now that those exchanges are not there. So it gave that error. So here, this is the exchange creation part. Or else to exchange to be created, I will again run my application. This is my AWS console. I will connect it again quickly. Wait, I'm connecting. Giving my keys. Okay, I'm connected. Yes, I'm connected. I will have this console here, exchanges here, so that you can see. So history. Anyway, I will then use, because my application is running here already, so I don't want to kill it. I will let me create the exchanges. So exchange, which is going to connect this exchange. And the exchange is this one, and of course I have to change the IP. Let's see. Okay, here those two is now being created. Previously I have deleted. The reason is I have configured these two exchange to be created when application starting up. Since the application already running here, I have deleted. So I have to again start up. Right. So it's here. Now local image processor. Yes. Okay. So now previously there was no any queue. Now you can see that image worker is connected with this queue name. So QName is I used to set the process ID. So if we go here and details, Java something process ID, you can see that maybe this one. Yeah. So so image processor is now connected and waiting to messages to be come and process. So this is running in my local machine. Now let's go here. This is image uploader and this is so I will choose a file. I have already have some files here. Images here. You can see that. So I will upload it. So you can see that I upload it, then face detected, and it's came really quickly. This is now from my local machine to connect to this server. Like this is the location where I am before image processing, where I am saving through that small application, my local running application. Now if I upload a new image, now let's say this one, and upload. It came here and it's processing. It's here back again. So it's really fantastic. So now one thing I have noticed is that now here in this image, let's go here. This is also nice. So I will again have this also running here and this also here, and also upload another one. So to move on to the next section, so upload this one, then here it says detected 40 faces, and it's now you can say that these are like, it's not issue with the application, it's related to OpenCV version or configuration that I am using. So now you can see that, okay, we have application up and running, but we know that there's a some issue that let's say this is a feature and we know that this feature have these known issues. So once we go with this kind of a solution, is what we can do is we can have another like new implementation which is going to subscribe to the same queue that this application is sending. So in the meantime, we can have these two application, like two processing. Like first we can connect the new implementation and test it even without users knowing it, like locally, and then we can switch to the new image processor, so that it is easy, or like that flexibility is there when we go with this kind of a loose coupling. Like this is now image processing is totally loose coupled with the application, like technology or anything, like any processor, image processor that connect to RabbitMQ and subscribe to that specific queue can do and send the response back. Right, so that is the second demo. So we have we have already reached our 1 hour. So I will this is the how it is our application, the current application is working. Now we have two exchanges and one face detection application is connected to create a queue with that process ID and bind to with this key binded to request exchange, and it is waiting for something to be go through this exchange with this key. If something when put into this exchange with that key, then it's going to come into here and then it's going to process here. That is the one section. the web application, what it's doing is when user upload a image, it's going to create a queue and bind it with this exchange, and it's going to have a consumer for this queue as well, and then it's going to send a message this exchange with this key, so that this is the same key, that this key, so that once it comes here, it's go through this one and then it process here to send the response back, send the response back to know this key, which is this key. When it is sending the message other than this key, it's putting into the header reply with this key, so that when he is putting with this key and at the header information that response back with this key, so that it comes here and going with this one to this, and then it's going to come here to this consumer and showing it here. That's how the process is, very quickly. Right, we have 1 minute. We can have this architectures. What we can have is that we can have one application coupled with one DB, that is one solution, or else with RabbitMQ we can go with a decoupled database. That so this is, I'm not saying that this we should follow this. These are possible one. So once all the read-write operation will be going on to here, and then it will send the data to here. So for the user, we can give a quick response. Also, we can have like two consumers. One is to this database and one is to another system. Or I'm like quickly going through. The other one is that we can have the one application here, and through RabbitMQ it's here, and through we can give a total separate server for like maybe disaster recovery, like our application one. Or else we can have that totally new application here, so that two application will be like same, like maybe two regional locations likewise. So with that, I will, since we have very less time, like these are the architecture like advantages. We will get loosely coupled components, and we can like work like a reactive and real-time way, and improve the scalability and easy and seamless adding of new feature. And we can go with replication or full replication of the application. We can go up to now, or we can use this for the critical areas that we want to have the like data and events replicated. So with that, I will conclude the presentation, and it is open for.
Thanks, Rajita. Thank you so much for that. Just a quick check Q&A. There are a few questions that we'd like to take it up, Rajita, on the Q&A box. Would you like to quickly take that up?
Yeah. Yes. Let me see. I have to. Maybe first I have to.
Do you want me to read it up for you?
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah, sure. So I think some of these questions you maybe have tackled it, but let me read it. Sampath asks, is RabbitMQ running on Erlang VM?
What I know is that RabbitMQ is written using Erlang. So it may be running on Erlang VM as well. So that is why this is so fast. If you have, I haven't worked much, but I have read about Erlang. It's like very, it's designed for real-time application with like quick response and multi-threaded and non-blocking and that kind of language. So it may be running on Erlang VM. Anyway, it has been written using Erlang.
So next, Sahan asks, these create exchange, create queue, and binding happens once in application life cycle, like in configuration setup when setting up?
No, it can be like for example, exchange can be like for application or pre-agreed, but queues and bindings can be dynamic. So that let's say as we see that we created the local image processor that's bind with a specific key like face detect. We can like let's say there would be another face hashing like generating hashes. So then like that application does not need to be pre-exist. Like you can have a new application that is doing hash tagging of images, that it can create its own queue and bind with the existing exchange with the key so that it can receive. So exchange, yes, could be a possible way that pre-agreed exchanges or exchanges also can be created. Queues and bindings are dynamic.
So Eranga asks, is the message frame binary or encoded like base 64?
It is binary. It is I can't remember that it's where encoded or base 64. I can't remember that. It's actually it is binary data. Like there are different specific size for a message. That there are header section that 1 bit for channel and likewise. So that's how the message structure. I can't exactly recall whether it is base 64 or not.
So Chatula asks, what are the difference between using WebStocks, AWS, SNS, or some kinds of radius queuing or RabbitMQ?
Yeah, I can see what is the difference between using WebSocket, AWS SNS or some kind. So WebSocket, of course, there's a difference. Like we can have this RabbitMQ going to be like have in a clustered way, and also it is more real time, and there are different there are messaging routing algorithms that already there with WebSocket. If we have to find a custom message routing algorithm with AWS SNS, this is pretty much similar. This is similar, but what I see is that here if we go with RabbitMQ, we have the flexibility to host it in-house or go it in cloud or likewise. With AWS NS, we have to go with the cloud environment. So that's a difference that I can mention right now.
Right. So in closing, I think there are a few other questions that we need to quickly answer. One is, what is the best practice to deploy the RabbitMQ as a separate middleware server, or deploy along with the application in the same server? Also, yeah, sure, go ahead.
What is the other one?
Sometimes RabbitMQ consumes a lot of CPU usage and stops the other services hosted by Docker. How to recover such type of accidents in lifecycle?
What I have seen, what is the first one? What is the best practice to deploy Rabbit? It is better to deploy RabbitMQ as a separate one, and then it is good not to bind with the application. Sometimes RabbitMQ consume lot of CPU usage and stop the other services. I haven't seen this. Maybe memory settings, so like there are a lot of configuration that you can set to configure the RabbitMQ, like memory, message payload related things, and likewise. So maybe sometimes related to RabbitMQ configuration. I haven't seen a huge CPU usage up to now for RabbitMQ.
Right. So
he has asked how to recover such type of accidents in live server. For that, the way of RabbitMQ is running a cluster, so that and also persist the there are, as I mentioned, we can persist the queues and persist the messages itself, so that when it's recover, those messages will be there. Also, you have the option to save the messages into a separate database as well, so that after failover, data will be there.
So let's move on to the next one quickly. How did you send the image to consumer or base64 or format data?
It's binary. I just send, like, once I get the uploaded message, I get it as a byte stream, like a byte array in Java. So same data, byte data is sent back to the local one, and once it is processed, again that same binary array is sending back to the client.
Right. So Ravina asks, is RabbitMQ using Redis? Can RabbitMQ recommend a system which transfers 1,000 messages per second?
I haven't read that it is using Redis. RabbitMQ is built using Erlang language, and can RabbitMQ transfer 100 messages? Yes, this is possible. I can't remember the exact what its promise, but there, there's to get this much of performance, you have to, like, if you want to let's say save the messages at the same time, you want to persist the message and send it at the same time, then it's reduce the performance. Actual figures, how many messages that it can process, I can't recall, but this much I have a feeling, but I have to check. I'm not 100% sure whether is it 1,000 messages per second is possible or not.
Right. I think there's another question on the chat from Kasun. Does PHPQ bind also has a third parameter key? That's actually not. That's on the chat actually, but Kasun has asked, this PHPQ bind also has a third parameter key?
Yes. All these parameters, those are coming from the specification. So in your language, it could be, maybe here in Java it is as a parameter. Maybe in PHP it may be sometimes something like bisetter, or like some JSON format. Or either way, it should support like those things that is mentioned in the AMQP protocol specification.
Right. Then let's go on to a final question from Nalin. In case of consumer didn't send after consuming message is going into re-delivered again.
How it is working is now to message to be removed from the queue, RabbitMQ needs to know like RabbitMQ is depending on the acknowledgement. So if you didn't send the acknowledgement, message will be there. But as I mentioned, there's a flag that we are going to send the acknowledgement or not. If we said that we are not going to send the acknowledgement, then RabbitMQ is not keeping the message. It's just send and remove it. But best practice is that once you do it, send the acknowledgement, so that after that only RabbitMQ will remove the message. Until then, RabbitMQ will keep the message.
Thanks. I think we just got one more question, so let's wrap it up with that. What are the main use cases of RabbitMQ? What kind of applications are suitable for?
It depends. So any application where I need to have messaging, let's say you wanted to decouple with something, or maybe integration also can be a part. There are two applications and you wanted to have something going in between these two, or else as I mentioned in the presentation, you want to have a replication that is without affecting the existing workload. You can have a RabbitMQ, and data can be pushed to the RabbitMQ, and through a separate consumer, you can have the replication system updated. So any like decoupling or message, a place that you want message oriented middleware, like let's say you want to have real time processing, likewise.
Cool. In closing, let me ask Rajita just one more question. Like I think
Yeah.
most of the audience at the start visit were much, I would say, not yet familiar with RabbitMQ or experienced in this. But if there are people who are getting started with RabbitMQ, right?
Yeah.
What would be your like key message in closing to people starting up with RabbitMQ?
First of all, it is you have to there's a good examples in RabbitMQ site itself, like tutorial kind of way that what I have to say, get familiar with this advanced message queuing protocol. It is not that complex, and then you can use the different client like this. You can use either what I have seen is there's good content in the RabbitMQ site itself. Like let's say if you want to go into production, what you need to do, like like the recommended way is that you should keep one connection. Like you should not keep connection over and over again. So those are they are in the RabbitMQ site. Also, there are good books like the RabbitMQ in depth. It's one book that you can read. Also, the RabbitMQ site itself. Those two I can mention.
Cool. So thanks, Rajita. Thank you so much for your, sharing this presentation, and I would say it's
Pleasure.
very interactive. And of course, thanks again to all the participants for joining this webinar. And I do hope that it was very helpful for you. So please do share your feedback. I've shared the link on the chat, but we'll be sharing the recording as well. And we hope to do continue these webinars frequently, and also what I'd like to share with and open up for you is that we'd like to take the topics that you want us to cover. So really do appreciate if you can share or maybe send in what topics you want us to cover, and we'll continue to roll this up. So on that note, let me wrap this up by thanking everyone, and good evening, and we'll definitely keep in touch for future webinars. So take care and stay safe, guys.
Thank you.